Well, this is Dicejunkies. We are a geek culture talk show. We dive into a lot of comic books and film, video games. And originally, I looked you up because of the voice of Queen Myrrah, but when I dove into your resume, you have a legendary list of projects you've worked on. Um, I think while researching, it looks like most people do ask you about your roles on Star Trek. You were the sinister Miss Templeton, but you were also Minister Marista Yale on an episode of Next Generation. What can you tell us about working on the iconic Star Wars franchise?
Oh, I mean, Marasta Yale was one of my favorite ones because she actually made contact with another planet, and that was amazing. And I relate, I'm quite curious, so I would have loved that. But the thing about Star Trek is that there are an incredible number of English people who ended up working on it, and when I started, it was in 90, I don't know, 90, even earlier maybe. I can't remember when I first played Sub Commander Towers. I don't remember how I got that. But it's just, they call, they ask you to come in and audition. And at that time, English voices, women with high cheekbones and deep voices were like, cool. So they kept calling me back. So I either played an alien or a commander or a murderer. That's basically what my workload was when I was in the States.
Yeah, the I remember the episode because you had this look of wonder on your face once you actually was transported up to the Enterprise to kind of get an idea of what the technology the Federation actually had at the time. And when I mentioned the episode to my co-hosts, they were like, "Oh yeah, I remember that episode." And didn't they have a problem with the Federation? Like, yeah, they wouldn't share technology with them, but your character was like, "Hey, we need to go with these guys." And so it was really interesting how well you dove into the character itself.
Well, acting, but it also it was also fun. I mean, they had Patrick's sort of main room on Enterprise was really beautifully designed, but it was also very simple. So, I remember sitting up there when you're in that room and you're looking out of those windows, and they have this incredible sort of curtain effect that goes past, which is really little shiny bits, and they make the stars. But when they light it properly, and you've got the rumble of the Enterprise underneath your feet, and it's going past you, and they're the odd shooting star, you get completely carried away, and it feels like you're on a spaceship.
Wow, that's really cool. I've often thought about because not an actor, I don't have any idea of how these things work. I just see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. But listening it from someone who was actually on set describe it, I mean, it really sounds like you can immerse yourself very quickly into that setting and believe you're actually on a starship flying through space.
Yeah, you do. I mean, absolutely, you do. And Patrick is so fabulous that he just slips into character. But in between all that, we were either roaring with laughter and having to sort of calm down. We used to get told off all the time because we were all laughing so much. But and then we got down to work. But we can do that. We laugh and then we get straight down to work. But it was just an extraordinarily fascinating series to work on. I mean, I loved everybody. I loved everybody that I worked with, and we couldn't get lazy. I couldn't fudge my lines or anything because we had a crazy guy who just was on you if you missed an and or two or the and the pressure of coming in at 3:30 in the morning, getting made up, which is and being ready for set by 8, because you were wearing special hands and because I had special everything. I couldn't get to the loo, so you just knew you had to finish everything and be ready at 8 o'clock, and you were stuck there till 12:31.
Oh wow.
And then they broke for lunch, and you had to have lunch in your trailer because you couldn't go into the canteen because all of this was like your ears and your hands and your mask and all of that stuff that was stuck on. Was a sort of, they only made one of them, so you couldn't afford to destroy them or take more,
Right.
and it
Yeah.
would take 2 hours to get off. So I got home usually about 10:30 at night, and I was back on that set by 3:30.
Wow. And everyone thinks that being an actress is all just like love and money, and it's really easy, but it sounds like it's a lot of work.
It's really hard. It's really hard work, and you lose your drift at the end. I mean, there's a thing called an idiot board that they have at the end of, for certain actors, and I had to have one at the end of 5 days of doing this, of getting 4 hours sleep, because you've got to drive home, you've got to get your kids organized, you've got to get up in the morning and have their lunches done, and then get in the car and be at the studio at 3:30 and walk a dog and blah 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 blah. So I mean, you didn't get any sleep. I didn't get any sleep for 5 days while I was shooting. So my brain would be mush
So,
by Fridays.
so you are a dog person, I take it.
You can tell.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go, yeah, yeah. I rescued dogs in LA and I rescue dogs here in France.
And how many dogs do you have?
At the moment, only two, but they're kind of getting older, and one of them nearly died, and I'd have more, but I would have a lot more, but I live with my twin, and she's not quite so doggy as I am. So we have two dogs, two cats, and I rescue everything and pass it on as much as I can. But we're going back to the UK to live in July, at the end of July. So That's what I'll be going back there. So when I get there, then there'll be more dogs.
I got you. Yeah, I'm a cat person. My wife's a dog person, so I could definitely understand the situation that you're in. So.
Well, here in France, they're amazingly cruel to their dogs. They're horrible to their dogs.
Really?
The ones I rescue are old hunting dogs, and they use them for 5 years, or they breed them for 5 years, and they just let them go. So. You can pick up a lot of hunting dogs, or they shoot them, but they're left alone. Often they're never exercised for 6 months. They're fed probably once every 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And they're completely maltreated. So it's amazing when they turn out to be such sweet dogs. I've had 3 of them now in 10 years I've been here.
Yeah, that's really kind of sad. I wouldn't expect to go down that little dark path here, but that's really cruel. I'm sorry to hear that.
That's why I'm so passionate about it, because they're not considered sentient beings. And every animal is sentient. They all miss their children. They all feel ecstasy. They feel enjoyment. They feel, everything that we feel.
Yeah.
They can't talk.
Yeah, we had a cat that liked to go outside, and we got his brother from the same litter from the shelter, and he never came home one day. We think he probably got hit by a car. And his brother looked for him for months. He would actually start meowing a couple of times to walk around the house, calling for what we believe would be his brother. So I believe that. I think they have feelings, they have memories, they have attachment, they have preferences, dislikes, and just like we do. They may not have the intelligence that we do, but they still have feelings, and they're still people as well.
Well, border collies can retain 2,000 words. English words that they understand, and they have the intelligence of a 4-year-old, as do pit bulls.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I used to rescue pit bulls off the street, and I was moving from LA, and I had him, and he was terrified to be left alone. So I had a very old 20s house in the middle of LA, and I'd rescued him off the street. Nobody would take him, and I was leaving in 3 days. So I had to hang on to him. I couldn't go anywhere with him, and I couldn't go and say goodbye to all my friends because I had this crazy dog, and I had this huge picture window in this 1920s house. And every time I left, he would hurl himself at the window to stop me from leaving.
And was waiting for.
I stuck that.
And I bet he was waiting for you at the door when you got home too.
Always, but eventually I got rid of him, and I came back to see him 5 years later, and he just charged across this house and the garden, and I sat down on the step, and he just barreled into me and put his paws up on my shoulders, buried his head in my shoulder, and just breathed this great big sigh and stayed there for about 5 minutes.
Oh wow!
But he remembered.
What was his name?
Tiger.
Tiger.
Tiger. Stupid name. But anyway, he is now in Costa Rica with his owner, and he goes every day to the beach, and he hangs out in a veranda, and he's having the best life.
Sounds like it. I would like to go to Costa Rica and hang on a veranda.
Me too. But I probably will go and visit him there. But it's lovely. He was one of the success stories.
Absolutely. Looking at your resume, you've actually worked with some real legends in the industry, from Peter O'Toole to Michael Keaton on Mr. Mom, Tom Selleck. Is there a interesting story or something that maybe you haven't talked about before regarding possibly either Tom Baker, Patrick Stewart, or Scott Bakula with your time on Quantum Leap?
Well, I mean, those guys are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They're amazing. I mean, there's not much I can say about either of them. There's nothing naughty about any of them. I mean, the thing about Scott that was so amazing was how well prepared he always was. He's the most professional man I've ever worked with. You know, he kept that. The crew were his crew. I mean, it didn't matter about the producer. He was amazing with the guys, and he was amazing with us. And he had to wrangle Dean a little bit, but you know, I that Dean was the humor, he was the comedy, and Scott was the organized one. But still, so gentle and generous and kind and funny and all of those things. But Dean was my boy.
Yeah.
I loved it.
So it sounds like the way they portrayed their characters on screen was also kind of how they were offset as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Dean was naughty, but great.
Yeah, because Quantum Leap was one of the shows back in the '80s that it was must-watch TV for me as a kid. I loved Quantum Leap, and afterwards, when Scott Bakula went on to do Enterprise, I would actually watch those because I was really a fan of his growing up as a kid. And I've watched.
There's nothing he can't do. There's nothing he can't do.
Oh no!
He can sing, he can dance. He does everything.
Yeah, he was an amazing actor because he would be dropped in situations at the end of every episode, and we wouldn't know where this was going because it was always compromising, or there was some kind of threat involved or something. And the way that he reacted was you believed that he was actually in that situation, and the whole "oh boy" phrase just got us every time.
Yeah, I loved him. I loved him. He's just a really good guy and works his tush off. I mean, he's a real professional.
That's good to know.
Peter O'Toole, not so much. Yeah.
What can you say about Peter O'Toole?
He was an extraordinary actor. I mean,
yeah.
There's no an extraordinary actor. But when I first met him, you know, he had all that charisma. He was a fantastic storyteller. He was all of those things, and he had the mentality of a 2-year-old. He used to go into a sulk, and you couldn't get him out of it. I mean, when he found out that I was not going to cozy up to him during the shoot, he pouted so much that he never looked at me again on screen. So, you know, I couldn't talk to him. He wouldn't talk to me.
Wow, that's interesting. So you did audio with Tom Baker for Doctor Who. Were you on set with the other crew, or did you do that basically in a studio by yourself?
No, I did that with him.
Okay.
He was in the studio, and we all had different booths, and we had different mics. But we hung out. Boy, that man can talk. He has got more stories. He's incredible.
He would be someone I would love to share a beer with one day, just to listen to him talk because.
You'd love it.
Actually, Zeno, who is the owner of the Dicejunkies, he doesn't collect a whole lot of things, but he does have a Fourth Doctor Funko Pop figurine sitting on a shelf. We all love the Fourth Doctor. Actually, I think it was last weekend or weekend before last. We have something called Random Encounters, and it's basically a list I generate, and we roll a dice, and whatever it lands on, we talk about. And one of the questions was, would you actually eat a jelly baby? So we talked about jelly babies for about 15 minutes, which was funny.
Good God. Well done.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I could wrangle up 15 minutes on that.
Well, if you ever watch our show, we have a co-host. His name is Q. He's my best friend other than my wife. He's my best friend in real life, and I've known him for a decade and a half. He's gone through divorce with me. I slept on his couch for 3 months. He's really been through the thick of it with me, so I love him for it. But he loves to talk to the point to where I have to basically butt myself in to get in a word edgewise. So
I know. Well, I mean, I did a convention once in Roswell and met a lot of people who had a video. I mean, this was doctors. I mean, people not. This was a doctor, and he showed me video that I could. Well, there were 6 of us were there, and none of us could figure out if he doctored them, how he doctored them.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
this was a long ago, and there was stuff out there flying around, and not just because it was Roswell, which was I'd never go there again, but Scott McDonald and I would sit there and look at these videos, and it was compelling stuff.
Wow. Yeah, because my one of my twins, the oldest of the two twins, has a fascination with Area 51. He keeps asking, "Can we go there?" I was like, "No, you can't go there." Well, people work there. I'm like, "Well, you have to join the military or the CIA or whoever's in charge of it. I think it's an Air Force base, and then you have to be able to work your way up and get security clearance to work there." Well, I'm going to do that. I'm like, son, if you want to, I'll support you with whatever you decide to do, but don't try
How
to
old is
storm
he
the
now?
base. He's
How
9.
old is he?
He's 9.
Oh, that's young. I mean, it's so weird when you get to Roswell itself because all the lamps have got alien heads on them,
Mm-hmm.
and everywhere is alien heads. Everywhere is these sort of strange creatures. But it's a strange place to go. It does something to you.
Does it really? Well, I'm sure it's part of the tourism aspect of it as well. Just like whenever I was in Cherokee, North Carolina, it was all Native American stores. It was Native American this and that, and so I'm assuming it's part of uh, the the tourism component that actually gives it that ambiance.
Well, partly, but it's also a recognized convention there, Star Trek convention, Star Wars, and so there were a lot of people there. We had I think 25 guests there, and some we all had a different experience, and it was very strange. It was
Really,
very strange. Interesting place to go when he grows up a little more. Maybe for his teenage birthday, you go there.
if he wants to go there for a senior trip, I'll take him to Roswell, and when we'll experience it for ourselves.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's it.
So the reason I got in touch with you is because of Myrrah and also looking at some of your other stuff. So in addition to film, you do a lot of voiceover work. You've done Captain Dr. Karen Shockless on Mass Effect, Shmi Skywalker in some of the Star Wars games, and you were also Mon Mothma in Helena Shan in Star Wars, which is an impressive resume. Um, the thing about Mira that really fascinates me is how cold but regal that she is. Um, how much of that was the character that you were asked to portray versus how much of that was actually Carolyn Seymour?
90% of it was Carolyn Seymour.
Really? That's
Uh,
cool.
well, because what they do is they show me Mira,
Mm-hmm.
I see the character, and then I have a director whom I adore. But really, because I can play commanders, and because I have this voice, and because I look the way I do, and I guess that's why. But I mean, I have a sense of authority which doesn't really, I can't own, but I look like
Oh, you do.
I can do that. So that's why I think that's why, because they did revoice me. If you're very clever, you can hear when they pretended they couldn't find me.
They
So that was
pretended.
they pretended they couldn't find me. And there's a bit in Gears of War which is not my voice.
Which game?
The one before last, because I did the last one, the one where I'm in my daughter's head. I did that one.
That was 4. Okay, yeah, because I didn't see a credit for Gears 4. There was a Mira character, I think, for the PV for the player versus player side. But yeah, so the the fifth
I
one.
don't understand what the difference is, but I mean, somebody just wrote to me and said, you realize that Gears of War and you're not on it, and they said that you'd retired and they couldn't find you.
Hmm. Yeah, the fourth one, I there was nothing in the actual campaign that I remember of Mira, but in the fifth one, she comes back and there's several lines. Um, I think my favorite one that you did was in the second installment, where you're doing a propaganda speech in Nexus, and you bolster out the world is rightfully ours. I mean, that was just so commanding, and it seemed like it was appropriate for what they were trying to get along with. Did you improv a lot of Mira, or was everything pretty much scripted?
Oh no, 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 definitely scripted. I mean, they had a producer who made sure that the lines didn't get messed with. I mean, we improvise. We could rewrite the lines sometimes if I felt it didn't fit her.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was a big hoo ha. I had to talk to the producer who was always online listening. You know, because I'd be in the booth, and then at the other side of the booth in the studio there would be the director and the two guys that wrote it, and the producer, and it was Rod who, because Rod's gone now. Rod
Rod
was the who
Ferguson?
was
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gone now. He's gone somewhere else. But he was the one who was my champion. So he allowed me to be me much more than I think than most people do, most producers do. He really has faith in me.
Yeah, Rod went to Blizzard to work on the next Diablo installment. I am curious if they would bring Cliff, was it Belinsky, back from who did the first three installments. I know he's interested in Gears of War 6, but I don't know if Microsoft's entertaining and bringing him back or not. But I think that would help because a lot of the franchise has kind of splintered off a little bit because the first
Yeah,
three were extraordinarily fun. They were gritty, and they fast forwarded 20 years, and it's not the same game anymore. But I would love to bring back someone who's part of the core first three games that Epic did, and see if maybe he could bring back some of that grit, some of that. Because, for example, my best friend Q on the show, he tried playing the campaign. Goes, this doesn't feel like Gears. But when we did the Hive Busters, which was the extra content with the three other characters, it felt like you were on missions, you were running together, you were fighting together as a squad. So bringing back that kind of camaraderie, we would actually have more fun with it. But now we just play the horde or the escape games that are in there,
right.
um, which unfortunately doesn't have your voice associated with it. But we there is a mirror that we can play for player versus player. And one of my friends online, Vixen, she usually runs with Mira as her skin.
Right, right.
Yeah, she's a hoot. But out of curiosity, what was your favorite project that you worked on as an actress?
Oh my God. There's too many. You know, they're all. You know, I hate to say something like that, but on the whole, that they've all been my favorite. You know, because at the time, when you're so committed, I mean, I loved working. I loved working with O'Toole. I mean, however, you know, we whatever our relationship was, what I learned from him was extraordinary. You know, I worked with David Hemmings, and I learned an enormous amount from him. Albie Finney, I just fell in love with, and we were friends till the day he died. Steptoe and Son, which is an English movie that I don't know that anybody knows really in America. It was not my favorite, but I learned how to strip, and I learned how to keep my cool, and I learned how to restrain myself, you know, because I was so angry all the time working on that movie, and I learned what was more important was the commitment to the project and not the personal stuff.
Right.
You know, and when I got to the States, I learned a lot about habits when I got to the States. That's really what happened. Is that I've gone from being a classical actress and doing this stuff over here, and the speed of television was the thing that got me into some bad habits, which is why I understand that when you act in some of the American TV, it can really change you as an actor.
Oh, imagine so, because there's also a culture change over this way as well.
No, yeah, yeah.
So lately, it seems like you've been doing a lot of more sci-fi stuff. Are you drawn to sci-fi, or is that just the gigs that you're actually getting at the time?
That's the gigs I'm getting. And it's the gigs I'm getting. I work a lot with a company called Big Finish.
Hmm.
Did we talk about that, Big Finish?
We can.
Um,
We haven't there, but yeah, we can.
they're an audio company, and they've got the rights to a lot of shows. You know, Doctor Who's in particular. They do Doctor Who a lot, and I've done. I can't remember. I mean, 7 or 8 of the Doctor Who's with all the different Doctor Who's that I've worked with. Some with John Hurt and Ian McNeice and Tom, and I mean all of them. I've worked with all of them.
Hmm.
Um, And then there's a series called Survivors that I did in 1970 for the BBC, and we're now on the 8th series of the audio ones. And that's about a pandemic. It's exactly the same as has happened here. It started in China. It destroys, only 10% of the population are left alive, and I'm the leader. There are 3 of us that try and find each other, because we're all different backgrounds, but all our families get destroyed by this pandemic, and wow. So we take off on foot and try and find each other and start new tribes. It's a tribal piece.
Is it in Survivors? I'm not familiar with it. Is that like a zombie apocalypse, or is it just the
not
people?
Not at all. It's people. It's people driven. Look it up on YouTube.
I will.
It's enjoying a huge success right now, and you can buy it. But it's very prophetic about today. It's
Sounds
very
like prophetic. It. So those that are affected actually just die. They don't transform or do anything.
They don't transform. Okay. It's a people-based thing, but it's a fascinating concept.
Yeah, it's almost as scary as having zombieism, because you have all this death and decay, and how is that going to affect everything else, because it's a circle of life. So you may have these carrion that would actually overwhelm the globe because they have all these new sources of food. So, that's kind of scary stuff.
It's interesting.
Are you working on any new material now that you can disclose?
Well, there's a couple of secretive things. There's a couple of the big finished things I've done that I can't talk about, but they're all to do with everything I've done, science fiction. So fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to see what we have coming up next, and hopefully they'll cast you in Gears of War 6, and we'll go back to E-Day.
Well, that would be nice. We need to tell them that, because they've stopped working with the guy who always was my champion. He was a man called Chris Borders, who was the director on a lot of them.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and he and I did all of them before, and then when Rod left, that's it.
Yeah, because as a fan, I've always wanted to play Emergence Day, because the first one was set 4 years after the Locust actually came to the surface. But I'd be kind of curious to see what it would like when Myrrah was planning the actual attack on civilization, because in the 5th game, we kind of got her background about how she was a science experiment, and I thought it would go a different path, because I read the books, and I always thought that Myrrah was Adam Phoenix's wife, Marcus's mother, just the way that it fit, because she left him in Asheville Fields, and his father wouldn't tell him where she went, and Marcus was always upset with his father. So I kind of thought, well, maybe Myrrah had an experiment that kind of went wrong, and therefore she left, and that's what caused her to get involved with the Locust below. But they went a different path with that. But I thought that would be an interesting story, because in the 3rd game, I really felt bad that we had to fight Myrrah, and I didn't want to kill her because I had such an attachment to the character. And when I told my wife that I was going to be speaking with you, she was excited, because she really we bonded over Gears 1. We got married to Gears 2. And so Gears 3, 4, 5, we've always played campaign together. Even Redemption, Judgment, we've played all of them together as a couple. So we split screen the entire game.
Right.
So when I told her I was going to talk to you today, she was excited. She's sick, or she'd be probably in here talking to you as well. So
that is so.
So, how can our fans find you and follow you on any of your social media platforms? So and you also have a website too, if I'm correct.
I do. Well, you found it. There's that, and I think I have a Twitter account now. Somebody did one for me. I don't do social media in France, because quite honestly, it's not worth the effort. You start it, and then it just disappears into the ethos. I mean, they cannot keep it going.
Really?
There is no. I'm stunned we're still talking. No, normally, there's no internet here, so it'll get much better when I hit the UK in July, and then I'll get stuck in.
Well, I'll definitely have to definitely invite you back. I'd love to get the other guys on the show to speak with you as well, because
Oh, that would be lovely.
yeah, because Q will ask some wild questions because he really he takes rabbit holes and a deep dive down rabbit holes. We'll start on one
If I
sub.
can follow him.
Oh,
Um,
and he's great to talk to. He's very intelligent. That's one of the things that I compliment him on is he's so bloody smart, but he just does not slow down sometimes. I'm like, can we back up and actually I add to what you're just talking about? Because he'll take tangents, and but I love him for who he is because he's very creative, and I think that's important. Um, so, but yeah, definitely, we'll love to get you on the show.
okay, that would be lovely.
All right,
I'm just hoping I'll carry on working. I just, I'm getting a little OLD now around the edges, so I'm just hoping that they keep me working because I love it so much.
well, with the Star Wars open license that Lucas Games is now able to do starting, I think, in September. There's a lot of Star Wars projects. Maybe they'll bring you back for some more Shmi Skywalker or some other Star Wars gigs.
That would be good.
Yeah,
We'll see.
absolutely.
We'll see.
All right.
Uh,
Well, I thank you very much, Miss Seymour, for your time. You're very lovely to talk to, and I look forward to
Thank
doing it
you.
again.
Okay, you're on. We will. Thanks very much. Be safe.
Thank you for watching the video. We hope you found the content helpful. If you did so, please hit the thumbs up as it helps spread the channel for other viewers. As always, you can watch Dice Junkies live on Twitch at 3:30 Central Standard Time on Sundays. We also stream gaming content on Twitch throughout the week, so be sure to subscribe there as well. If you can, please go ahead, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you're up to date on all the Dice Junkies content. As always, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy. They fucked my tomatoes up!